With regards to Finance Commission, sir, the argument that we contribute more and therefore we should get more out of Finance Commission does not actually go with the mandate of the Finance Commission. Finance Commission is to make sure that regional inequality is also managed.
None of the states were doing financially well. Imagine a state like Bihar at that point of time, if it would have made it a compulsion that if you are extracting coal, iron ore, manganese, etc. from my state and using it for your industrialization, I will charge a royalty of 50%. Would the so-called industrialized states be in the position that they are in?
What you're basically saying is that only somebody who is a resident from, let's say, Karnataka or Tamil Nadu would be the best person to represent your interests in the parliament. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I want to have.
But that is not something that is envisaged in the constitution.
So,
because you can be from north of India and still contest elections from a southern Indian state. Because the constitution has an objective, as mentioned in the preamble, which is fraternity, a sense of common brotherhood. Don't you think by raising these issues, you are creating an unnecessary north versus south divide and thereby affecting the territorial unity and integrity of the country? The first 6 languages which were declared as the classical language, none of them were from the North India. Yeah. So whether it is Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Odia, and then the Sanskrit as well. So none of these languages were from north of India.
Just Hindi, problem. I'm saying any other language, it's not a problem.
Any other language is not a problem, but Hindi is a problem. Hello and welcome to Unacademy. Today we are here to discuss and debate important and sensitive issues concerning the relationship between the Union Government and the southern Indian states. Issues such as the delimitation exercise, which the southern Indian states are vehemently opposed to, the imposition of Hindi on the unwilling population of South India, the tax formula used and employed by the Finance Commission for the devolution of funds to the states, because the southern states are claiming that we contribute more to the national growth and development and in return we get the peanuts, as well as the fourth important and sensitive issue of the new national education policy, which the southern states are claiming is nothing but euphemism for Hindi imposition. Today, let's debate all these important issues and we have a face-off. On one hand, we have a group of teachers who are vehemently opposed to all these exercises, and to my left is a group of teachers who are in favor of all these critical issues, which they believe is important for national growth and development, as well as unity, integrity, and sovereignty of this country. Let's start this debate and let's first have the opening remarks of Chetan sir. What are your issues with all the 4 issues that I've listed?
As an Indian from south of India, I find the recent developments to be very concerning, very alarming, because we get a sense that there has been a political, economic, and cultural assault on south of India. Be it on the issues of delimitation, the Hindi imposition that is being witnessed, and as well as the question of devolution of funds. So let's throw open the debate, and we strongly have this sense, we have a grievance which we are trying to raise, and we feel that we are not being heard. And you find that sentiment being reflected in the statements of our leaders as well. So I think that's what we are here to debate. So let's throw open the debate and then have a discussion.
Mukesh sir.
In my point of view, all these issues that we have talked about and we will debate about, now raking up of these issues all of a sudden, that reeks of political opportunism to galvanize the constituency of the leaders on their own. And that is why do I say so, is because there was a kind of a predictability of all these kind of things for a long period of time. But suddenly, you will find that these issues are flaring up all over again. So in my point of view, this is a kind of a political subterfuge in order to divert the attention from the real issues of governance. And one by one, we can pick up the points regarding how that is logical and there is a logical outcome at the end of it.
Shams sir, Mukesh sir has a point. Delimitation is a constitutional mandate. That has to happen. That has happened in the past. And that should happen in the future as well. And what you're trying to say right now is that we won't have the implementation of constitution in southern India, and we want to stick to the formula which was used way back in 1970s.
Hello learners,
Unacademy IAS English team is proud to launch a new batch for CSE 2026, which starts on the 5th of March. And Unacademy is offering a 15-month plus subscription for 22,999, the lowest subscription fee of all time. Visit our website, check various subscription plans, plus Iconic Pro, and you might see a different subscription amount on display. Use this code IAS English to unlock the lowest subscription amount. Join us and prepare with India's most credible IAS preparation team, and together, let's crack it.
The Constitution of India also says that India is a union of states, and we follow a model of federalism, which means the center or the union government, whenever they form the policies, they will have to protect the interest of all the states, not very few of the states. So when you look at, let's say, the tax devolution, or let's say the constituency delimitation exercise, or let's say the imposition of policies related to education, we will prove that over a period of time, the interest of the people from southern part of India have been neglected. And if you continue the same, we will be losing out our importance, our identity as well.
Let me bring you to this debate, Abhishek sir. Your opening remarks.
So with regards to delimitation, it's a constitutional mandate, as you said, and over the insecurity of certain states, we cannot delay that. That is the first point which I want to make. And more than that, this insecurity can be in the eastern parts also, western parts also, and therefore, when they are not talking about it, this somehow, the insecurity of the southern states is manifesting itself in political terms. And this is where we believe that, as I said, there's a politics to it. The second thing with regards to NEP, NEP is again not the imposition of Hindi. It is based on multilinguality, and again that insecurity is manifesting itself, and the politics of Hindi and all is coming through. With regards to Finance Commission, sir, the argument that we contribute more and therefore we should get more out of Finance Commission does not actually go with the mandate of the Finance Commission. Finance Commission is to make sure that regional inequality is also managed. So therefore, the concept of Bimaru state, as it is called, that does not mean that you are going to neglect somebody because he or she is contributing less or more. So therefore, it is based on a certain sense of insecurity, and it is now reaching to a point where it is becoming irrational. You cannot delay constitutional mandate, you cannot delay an imposition of a central policy based on multilinguality and then push your insecurities onto it.
We have had opening remarks from all the four panelists. Let's debate all these critical and sensitive issues one by one. And first we will focus on the delimitation exercise. Chetan sir, Constitution mandates that after every census there has to be delimitation, which happened after the census of 1951, 61, 71. This is where the southern states protested that we will lose our share in the parliament. So please freeze the further increase in the number of seats at the Lok Sabha level, which the parliament at that time did by amending the constitution. And this delimitation exercise was suspended for a good 50 years. Although we have had delimitation in the year 2002, the final award was given in 2008, but it did not lead to an increase in the number of seats. That was done for internal reorganization. But if the constitution mandates that after the census of 2026, there has to be delimitation exercise, what are your concerns with that?
One would be the criteria which would be used for delimitation. Should population be the only criteria? Because if you look at the family planning programs, South Indian states, even the western states in India, have done much better compared to the North Indian states. And look at the population growth that has happened from 1970s till now in the last 5 decades. Clearly the population has skewed in favor of the North Indian states or the so-called Hindi heartland. And a delimitation exercise purely done on the basis of population as the sole criteria will end up benefiting those states, giving them greater representation in the parliament, which means South Indian states and other states as well might lose out some seats, or they may not see any increase in the number of seats. That leads to a direct reduction in the representation that we have in the parliament.
Then what is your alternative?
There should be other parameters considered as well.
But population is the most important criteria that is followed for reorganizing the territorial boundaries, and this happens everywhere in the world.
Correct. Population is taken as a criteria primarily to ensure the principle of one vote, one person, at least to ensure that roughly each constituency has roughly the same population, which is a very valid criteria. But if you take that as the sole criteria, then you are basically punishing and disincentivizing those states which
That's
have
what
done
I'm
well.
asking. What should be the alternative?
We should maybe consider the contribution to the economic development, the geographical disadvantages which are present, and as well as maybe the income distance which is present between the states.
But should that criteria be used for some other schemes and policies and programs, for example, welfare schemes, rather than for redrawing the electoral boundaries?
But if that has been used in Jammu and Kashmir, why not in other states?
And can you clarify what happens in Jammu and Kashmir?
So in case of Jammu and Kashmir, along with the population criteria, there are many other parameters such as, let's say, the distance from the border, or the hilly region, difficult terrain of the state, etc. Different parameters have been used to basically redraw the boundaries under
That
the
is still
delimitation.
going to be against the southern states because you won't see difficult and hilly terrain in the southern India.
I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying basically use the same parameter or the same formula. Our grievance is with control of population, we are going to lose out more number of seats in the Lok Sabha.
So what you're basically alleging is that you are being disincentivized for doing good.
Yes.
And the northern Indian states are being incentivized for being unable to control their population.
As such,
and just because you have done good does not necessarily mean that you should be penalized for
Yes.
it.
As of now itself, if you look at out of the total 500 plus seats in Lok Sabha, all the southern states put together account for around 24% of the total seats, when the population of 1971 has been taken into consideration. Now, if you take the population of, let's say, 2021 or even after, let's say, any other later census, the southern Indian states are going to have much lesser compared to what we already have. So, our grievance is, why only population? Why not any other parameter? in
Are you
addition to
alleging this is a
population?
deliberate attempt by the Union Government right now to penalize southern states because the ruling party at the center is unable to encroach into the politics of South India?
I would not say this is the only, let's say, objective, but I will definitely have a doubt regarding this kind of a objective, because the population census was supposed to be conducted after 2021. Why it has been delayed?
Because of COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, done then. Why not in 2023? Why not in 2024? Or why not even in the latest announced union budget of the Government of India?
So you are
They
saying,
could have done,
since the constitution says that after the census figures of 2026,
yes.
then we can have a delimitation exercise. So the Government of India is deliberately
Yes.
delaying census to 2026 so that data will be used for reorganizing the electoral boundaries,
Yes.
thereby affecting the southern states.
Yes.
So you are not against the delimitation exercise, but you're strictly against using population as the sole criteria
Yes.
for reorganizing the country.
Also, if
Let's put it
you
this
look at the projected numbers, it's very concerning for South Indian states. If you, let's say, take the current projected population and apply the delimitation ratio which was used in, let's say, 1970s, UP would see a triple increase in the number of seats from the current 80 to up to 240 seats. Whereas a South Indian state like Tamil Nadu would barely see an increase of 20 to 30 seats.
The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister says our seats would be reduced by 6.
Reduce as well. And Kerala, it would remain the same. And
I
if you
have
take
one
undivided
question.
Bihar,
and the statements which have been provided by the center does not specify any of the stakeholders.
Sir, but I have
For
a-
example,
yeah.
when the center says southern states are not going to lose even a single seat, that doesn't give us a confidence. Okay, we are not going to lose seats, but what if somebody else gains more seats?
So northern states will disproportionately
Yes.
gain more seat, and then their clout, political clout at the center would increase drastically. So you will always be subservient to a political party which has the dominance in the
Yeah.
north. Let's bring in Mukesh sir to this debate. You have heard the arguments.
And
Do
there
you
were-
think that their concerns are genuine, or this reeks of political opportunism?
So there were multiple arguments made, some bordering some amount of dangerous ideas. So give me a couple of minutes to unpack these things. Now, when we talk about electoral democracy, the basic bulwark on which the entire system stands is that one person equals one vote, right? Now, when someone is suggesting, let's suppose financial performance or income distance should be considered as a criteria for delimitation. So in a way, we are implying that people from a financially weaker portion of the country, their vote counts less as compared to those people who are from financially better off places.
You consider this elitism?
Yes. And also, why that is dangerous, think about it for a brief moment. Put yourself in the shoes of an individual, let's suppose, who is born in the state of UP or a Bihar. What is their fault? someone who has been born and brought up, let's suppose, in the past decade and a half. What is their fault that they were born in that state, that their representation should count less? First of all, that is a major criteria. Now, they talk about the aspect that North Indian states will gain disproportionately. Name one country in the world, any one country in the world, which has got a uniform population distribution. We know that more than 90% of the population of the world survives in 10% of its area. Now, this is a reality. And democracies across the world, they accommodate that reality. Where you have greater population, that means the requirement and the attention. We are, after all, a welfare state, isn't it? We should not forget our ultimate purpose is for the welfare of the people. So if there is, let's suppose, if I consider the argument that these are laggard states, financially not well-to-do states, isn't it the duty of the nation as a whole, rather than South India, North India, to comprehensively uplift everyone and maybe partner each other, rather than pointing fingers at each other that why do you get a larger share of the pie or why do you get a smaller share of the pie? Think about it for a brief moment. When India got its independence, at that point of time, none of the states were doing financially well. Imagine a state like Bihar at that point of time, if it would have made it a compulsion that if you are extracting coal, iron ore, manganese, etc. from my state and using it for your industrialization, I will charge a royalty of 50%. Would the so-called industrialized states be in the position that they are in? So that was foregone. So why was that? Is it because are we living in a kind of a transactional banking ecosystem? That I have given 10 rupees, this is my contribution, 10 rupees to the national development, I should get 20 rupees as a return? No, there will come a time. We are in a civilizational state. This is a continuum.
But Mukesh sir, if the northern Indian states will disproportionately gain more seats in the parliament, then the political party in power which has the support in these northern states will favor laws, will enact laws which will favor the northern states. Plus, when you look at United States of America, for example, regardless of the population of the 50 states, all these 50 states contribute 2 seats to the Senate, regardless of your population. So can this formula not be applied in India?
Exactly, that is what I was trying to come at. See, when we talk about parliament, why are we restricting ourselves to the Lok Sabha? We have the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States. You took the example of United States. Why can't we have a system where in the Council of States, all the states have equal proportion of representation? Why is it so that a state like Mizoram should lose out? For that matter, think about it, that is a border state. That has got more concerning issues as any of the other states that we can think about.
Sir, but the question is, so Lok Sabha has a higher power compared to Rajya Sabha.
Right.
In the US, the Senate and Congress, the House of Representatives have almost the same powers.
Almost, but not the same power.
Not the same powers,
Our
but
contention
better than
is,
Rajya
if you
Sabha.
want to propose for a uniform representation, propose it in Lok Sabha. Why in Rajya Sabha?
That is
But
where...
Shams sir, the point is, it's after all about democracy. It's about mandating and implementing one person, one vote.
Yes.
Is it also not true that the southern states got benefited because of the policies of the Union government from 1950s by establishing heavy industries in the southern India and neglecting the northern India?
Sir, the policies that you talk about, no doubt many of the policies have benefited southern states. There is no denying the fact that regarding that. But at the same point of time, there have been policies which have been implemented by the central government which have benefited only some of the states from the northern part of India. For example, Green Revolution. Which states got the benefit of Green Revolution? They were mainly the northern states. So
you think that was also deliberate?
I'm not saying it was deliberate. It was done keeping in mind certain factors into consideration. Just like, let's say, if you talk about, let's say, promotion of software or let's say services sector, definitely, no doubt, the states from southern part of India will get the benefit of the central government because the larger investment is going into southern part of India or the skilled labor availability, etc., etc. Our concern is that if one particular, let's say, part of India dominates Lok Sabha, gets more representation, has very high number, let's say crosses 270 out of 540 seats, then the policies which can be done, even if we like it or don't like it, doesn't matter to them.
So you are suggesting Let me get the clarity on this and correct me if I'm wrong. What you're basically saying is that only somebody who is a resident from, let's say, Karnataka or Tamil Nadu would be the best person to represent your interests in the parliament. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I want to have.
But that is not something that is envisaged in the constitution.
So-
because you can be from north of India and still contest elections from a southern Indian state. Because the constitution has an objective, as mentioned in the preamble, which is fraternity, a sense of common brotherhood. Don't you think by raising these issues, you are creating an unnecessary north versus south divide and thereby affecting the territorial unity and integrity of the country?
No, first I would like to.
So for you, would national interest be paramount or your self-interest?
First, I would like to disagree with the assumption that South Indian states developed because of central government policies or resources being channeled from North Indian states to South Indian states. Though they were responsible for that, South Indian states had the right ecosystem, from education to better safety and better stability. And the credit goes to the state governments and the local society as well, and the cultural values, which contributed to the development of South Indian states.
Cultural values, can you...
That is quite problematic to say
condescending
because...
and patronizing attitude to
No,
take for the
because
other
the better
portion of the
performance of
population.
southern states is based on the differential impact of land revenue settlements and the British policies. Because in southern states there was Rayatwari settlement, and all the states which we are talking about are permanent settlement areas which were disadvantaged at that given point of time. The point is we started at zero at the time of independence. And this
So
whole
did all the states.
No, this is where this is coming as a deja vu to me, because this is the exact same conversation happened at the time of American Constitution. It's called 3/5 rule. It was the basis of what is called as the American Civil War, which is how do we count the slaves. But here's the not the concept of slavery, but if a concept is benefiting the southern state, it is justified. If it is benefiting the northern states, no, it is against the concept. If I turn the table today, and this was the question I was going to ask you, if today exactly opposite situation would have been there, would you be then saying that the northern states should not be, or there would be a victimization politics here, that the insecurity is making you feel that every policy from the center is anti-South?
Let's take an example, sir. Let's say there is a class, two students are there. One is a topper, the other is a failed student. As a teacher, what's the teacher's responsibility? Definitely the teacher has to help out the student who has failed, give some additional coaching, help them out. But does that mean the teacher should discriminate against the topper, bring the topper down as well?
But that is
That is what is happening with the South Indian
Analogy,
states.
where this analogy is going wrong, imagine there are
Sir.
two students. One is very good in studies, other one is not that good. Now both of them have read from the same teacher. Now after some time, the student who is good in studies, he or she stands up and says that whatever I have achieved is on my own. That person is laggard. That is his or her
Give
own
me a
problem.
separate
That's
class.
not
So
what is-
now
Give me
I
a
should
separate
get a
class.
larger share of the pie.
This is
Because
the whole
argument is
argument.
very simple, sir. We are not saying that what is being done to us completely everything is wrong. We are saying when you conduct these kind of things, let's say for example delimitation, can you simply tell me that in case of Jammu and Kashmir what the government of India did was wrong because apart from population they considered other parameters?
But
are
then
we not
Jammu and
lying
you
with
are-
ourselves when we say that Jammu Kashmir
And
as
some-
a region is equated with other regions? This is the most sensitive region in the country that we are talking about. This is a region where we have a consistent external influence that we have been tackling since time
This is
immemorial.
selective argument.
And then we are comparing it with, let's suppose, a region in the hinterland like, let's suppose, a Telangana or a Jharkhand for that matter. That is absolute...
Okay, then let me put your argument back to you. Is it our mistake that I am born in Karnataka and not in Jammu and Kashmir? Is it my mistake that I am born in Karnataka, not
But
in
then
Bihar
is it
then?
So that means someone who is born somewhere, that should be the deciding factor of how much the central assistance
That's
should
what
be
I'm
given.
saying, sir.
Now,
Can you
is that the
basi-
argument that
Sir,
you are
you
making?
cannot
Can you
keep the
basically say that?
Constitution hostage.
Okay, let's say.
You cannot keep the constitution hostage over a certain insecurity.
So
That
question
the
is,
point which
are
we
you
trying
just going to
say.
follow the law or the spirit of the constitution?
Spirit of the
Spirit of the
constitution?
constitution.
Constitution.
So when the constitution says you'll have to conduct, let's say, census after 10 years,
Yes.
why was it not conducted, let's say, in 2024?
Well, that's not something which is mentioned in the constitution.
And that's the reason I'm saying, what is the spirit?
The spirit of constitution also says that the constitution should promote, or the government should promote Hindi. But that is mandated.
No, we will discuss that point specifically. Let's first agree to disagree on delimitation. Your concern is with using population as the sole criteria for redrawing the electoral map of India. Their demand is we need to follow the letter and spirit of the constitution because what was delayed for 50 years should not be delayed any further.
True,
Am
sir.
I correct?
True, sir.
But do you think that their demands or grievances are also genuine?
What I can say is I can understand.
Or with hand on your heart, if we would turn the table here and you were from south of India and these were from north of India, would you also not be raising the same points as raised by the other side?
I hope not. Because again, I will bring the issue of the national progress is what will bring us together. We rise together or we sink together.
Then why do you think the northern states, particularly Bihar and UP, you have failed to control the population?
So,
That
but
is-
this is where one thing which I want to say, we are using north as a monolith. We add east, west and north together and south as one unit. Let's talk
No,
about...
I'm not doing that. I'm specifically asking about UP, Bihar. Why are these two Indian states unable to control their population?
There are various issues, and it will be an absolute ignorance if we say that everything has worked perfectly and this is a natural boom of population. For example, you have had issues such as encephalitis, you have had issues, various different diseases which are there. And the demographic transition of the society tells us when the death rate of the children are very high, the number of children which are born in a family is almost.
That is not natural. That is because of the lack of proper
Absolutely, yes.
implementation.
Absolutely, yes.
By that logic, Kerala is always facing every year, every epidemic.
No, but kudos to Kerala in terms of the health system that it has been able to develop. And
That's specifically what I'm asking. Why do you think that the states, the big states of Bihar and UP, they are failing at every front?
that is an abject failure of governance. That is what I would say.
By that logic, do you also feel that these individuals who have been policy makers for so long
Yeah.
should be divested of that power, and that power should be given to someone
But
else?
that is not
maybe from the southern India, so that they can make progressive.
No, that is not democracy,
So
that
the
is not
leaders from
democracy.
southern India, are they not part of the governance and the decision-making process? It is. That is what I am
But
trying
it
to
is
get
also, is it also not true that a political party which wins UP is able to form the government at the center?
at. Jawaharlal
Yes,
Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India.
that we know.
Yeah, I hope so. So at that point of time,
One MP will not agree with you.
there was the kind of a political majority which was won. Who was the president of Congress party at that point of time? From which part of country?
The southern India.
It was K. Kamraj.
Yes.
Didn't the Congress function absolutely fine
Syndicate
with
was
someone
there, yeah.
coming from South India and someone coming from North India coming together?
That is
Why
what
can't that
that's
function?
what political scientist Rajni Kothari calls the Congress system, which reminds me of the debate on federalism. Federalism has evolved in India through 4 stages. The first stage was between 1952 and 1967. This is where Congress was in power both at the center as well as in the states. But it was not the party high command culture as we see today. There were strong regional leaders. And that is why we say federalism emerged in India, because states were allowed to have their own state language, or states were carved out in the name of language. Linguistic federalism developed in India because these states in which there was a Congress government, but they were not subservient to the party high command. So don't you think over a period of time we have lost that political maturity?
To some extent, in certain areas, you can say so, but I would also argue here that we still have very strong regional leaders, be it the north, the east, the west, or the south. Even in southern part of the country, if you talk about any state, for example, Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, there is not one major political leader, but there are multiple strong leaders out there who have represented the voice of the people very vehemently. But what I will come back to it is this is a predictable exercise which was pending for a long period of time. Suddenly raking it up 1 year prior to the state elections. That is what reeks of political opportunism.
This is where you may be wrong, because this is not for the first time that southern Indian states,
Absolutely.
particularly Tamil Nadu, have been raising this issue. Because this issue was raised in the 1970s as well, and that's how Constitution got amended, and that's how this delimitation exercise was pushed for 50 years. But don't you also think that if this delimitation exercise is carried out, where the northern states will gain disproportionately or proportionately to their population, and the southern states will lose their voice, and then a political party which commands majority in these northern states will form the government at the center, and then will make laws, set up finance commission, which will decide the terms of reference of the finance commission, and then decide what should be the criteria used to devolve funds from the divisible pool of taxes. These are genuine concerns of the southern states. And if all the states started at the same point, the southern states performed well.
That is where we
The
are.
southern states performed well. They were able to effectively implement family planning programs. They were effective enough in implementing the welfare programs. That is how we say whether it is total fertility rate, it is maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, these indices are at its optimum level in the southern states and not in the northern states. So you're penalizing southern states for performing good.
So this is where we disagree, that all states in India on 15th August 1947 were not equal. Let's be very, very honest.
But if I can show you your initial statement, you said we all started at the same point. Hello learners. Unacademy IAS English team is proud to launch a new batch for CSE 2026, which starts on the 5th of March. And Unacademy is offering a 15-month plus subscription for 22,999, the lowest subscription fee of all time. Visit our website, check various subscription plans, plus Iconic Pro, and you might see a different subscription amount on display. Use this code IAS English to unlock the lowest subscription amount. Join us and prepare with India's most credible IAS preparation team, and together, let's crack it.
All states in India on 15th August 1947 were not equal. Let's be very, very honest.
But if I can show you your initial statement, you said we all started at the same point.
We started at the same point with regards to governance. The systemic issues in Bihar or UP, which in turn led to this trajectory in which, as Sir said, that in turn led to population growth itself, or this uncontrolled population growth itself, which is a failure of the state. We totally agree that Bihar and UP should have performed better with regards to demographic performance, but they did not. That is a issue wherein Bihar and UP, specifically Bihar and now Bihar and Jharkhand, were trying to manage things which were not there in South India. And the same population which goes to South India as migrant population and used for agriculture, then they don't have a problem there. That is not the problem. The problem only comes in, this is where, as Sir said, it's about politics.
Sir, why do you think people will migrate? Why do you think people will migrate? Because the job opportunities
are present in South of India.
So does it not mean sufficient job opportunities are not getting created in
I'll
the
ask you this
government?
straightforward question. Do you believe that every state was equal at the time of independence?
Sir,
You're an economist.
each and every region had its own political, social and economic
another
problems.
reality I will ask
That is
you,
again.
from an absolute economic unbiased point of view,
Yeah.
does a coastal state and a state which does not share an international border,
Landlocked.
do they have the same opportunity to industrialize as compared to the location of industries?
Correct, done.
Correct,
Sir,
I agree.
When you have this kind of question, I can ask you a similar question. Does a state with highest population, should it not have highest labor with skilled labor level also?
Also states with
highest population, if
should it not have
facilities are
generated
not
sufficient
available,
number of jobs?
state with
it
resources.
becomes a
So,
demographic disaster.
Argument is very simple. Every state is not the same in India. I'll agree.
Yes.
Every state doesn't have to be same in India.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that we should start losing out on, let's say, our representation in policy making. It should not mean that we should start losing our importance. It should not mean that we start losing our identity.
Sir, if tomorrow Gujarat says that we want same criteria, will you support it as a southern?
kind of criteria?
The same concept that demographic performance should not be there. We would want other criteria also because we contribute most.
Sir, I'm arguing in favor of that. Why will I not support Gujarat?
Gujarat,
then?
yes.
So
Let's have it.
So there.
And sir, to counter the geography point, yes, coastal states have an advantage. Similarly, didn't these states have better resources?
No,
So
the
that is,
better
what I'm talking
Huh?
about.
Why do you think?
At
Why
that
in
point
that
of time,
case?
imagine
Why do you think
50%
Green
royalty
Revolution was
is
implemented in
Bengal
these states?
The Green Revolution never
Let
worked
me
out
come
in
into
Bihar,
the
sir.
picture. Let's not cut each other. We don't want this to be a nation wants to know debate. Let's be civil and let's understand each of these points one by one. You said in one of the programs earlier that we haven't had a prime minister from the south of India.
I
Is that
did.
also
I
your,
said, yeah.
you said that? Is that your grievance? Or this is just to make a political point?
No, this is the
Or do
political.
you think that if this
More number of
delimitation
prime
exercise is
ministers
carried
are
out, then previously we were part of the coalition governments at the center. Now even then, if the delimitation exercise is carried out. We will never be part of any government at the center.
This is the political ground reality. South Indian states in general haven't had the same equitable representation in the parliament, especially when it comes to government formation. After every general election, look at which states, which parties have played a bigger role. Look at the role of UP, for example. The party which gets
There was
more number of seats.
Jayalalitha who single-handedly played a decisive role in the fall of the AP.
So did DMK.
Why are we forgetting HD Devegowda?
Sir, you
But
generally,
Devegowda's coalition.
that's what we are saying, sir. You have just a countable number of people
Yes.
represented from southern part of India. What about rest of the other prime ministers? You can count PV Narasimha Rao, Devegowda. What about other prime ministers? Are there only two prime ministers?
but that
in
is
India?
democracy.
Sir, how many
that's
prime
not-
ministers have we had? Look at, thankfully,
But
we
even
haven't had many prime ministers.
out of the total number of prime ministers, how many are from southern part of India?
Yeah, but that is democracy.
That is a
Democracy.
fact.
That's what
how
we are saying,
electoral
sir.
politics
That's what
work.
we are
That is
saying.
what they are
That's what we are
alleging.
trying to say.
democracy
This is what
is
democracy is.
And-
Then they will lose their share
Sir,
in
when they are
parliament.
at an advantage at economics, then they don't say anything. When they are at a disadvantage with regards
Sir,
to
that is
politics,
what
they
I
are
want to
sir.
basically
If
point
you
is a
say
selective
this is
argument.
political opportunism,
This is pure political opportunity.
then isn't it a political opportunism on the part of the ruling party as well to increase seats in the Hindi heartland so that it will favor a certain party? Isn't that political
but isn't that a
opportunism?
Without
conspiracy,
population
sir?
increase, the seats are being increased? Is that the case anywhere?
It's like using the ground reality and changing the
Think
political
about
narrative.
it.
It's not a
UP is
conspiracy.
one
Sir,
of the-
rise in the
I'll
population
tell you one thing.
itself is a
It's
problem.
a common practice. I don't for a moment support that, but it's a common practice everywhere in the world. They do something called gerrymandering. They change the electoral boundaries in such a manner that it skews in favor of the ruling political party. But I think we have had enough debate on delimitation. You have your strong grievances. They have equally strong arguments to defend delimitation exercise. But can we, neutral take on this matter, can we further delay this delimitation exercise by, let's say, another 50 years? And then let's leave it to a wiser, educated class of citizens who may have a dispassionate look of this issue and ultimately decide the future course of action for this democracy. That's my personal take on this matter. Let's now come to the important, sensitive debate topic number 2, which is on the imposition of Hindi on the unwilling population of the South India. We have had recent statements, for example, made by the governor of the state of Tamil Nadu. We have had statements, the tussle between the chief minister of Tamil Nadu and the union education minister. Is there Hindi imposition happening in South India, or is it a figment of your imagination?
Hindi imposition, I don't think it's happening from the state directly. It's more of a covert, subtle attempt and a cultural imposition aspect. For example, see, this is what affects someone's day-to-day life in South of India. When migrant workers come in from, let's say, North Indian states, when they don't assimilate with the local culture, don't respect the local culture, I think that is where the grievance comes up. When they expect South Indians to talk in Hindi, when they don't put in the slightest attempt to learn the local language.
Does our constitution believe in unity in uniformity or unity in diversity?
Unity in diversity.
So what is your problem if a migrant from north of India is not speaking your language?
Then in that case, wherever, let's say, a migrant
After
worker
all, the
goes,
preambular objective is fraternity, a sense
Fraternity.
of common brotherhood.
Correct.
That's what constitution mandates. Free movement of people throughout the territory of India. You have the freedom to reside and settle anywhere within the territory of India. Why do you insist that someone who comes from outside, now I disagree with the term outsider
Outsiders,
because we are all Indians.
True.
Now somebody coming from outside, let's take that for a moment, should necessarily follow your language, your script, your culture?
just to turn the table around, why should the locals learn the other language just to communicate with the migrant workers? Isn't that a sort of imposition? You feel it's a sort of imposition. It's both a feeling and an imposition which comes out at the end of the day.
It's not just the situation of talking to migrant labor. If you look at many of the policies of the central government, it looks like an imposition. For example, let's say naming of different laws, right, which are given in Hindi. I'm not fluent in Hindi. If I don't pronounce it correctly, people will laugh at me, but I'm expected to pronounce in Hindi. So question is, why not name it in a, let's say, a neutral language, let's say English, which we have been doing it from many, let's say, decades now. So one issue is that. Another issue is,
Just to interrupt you on that, Shyam sir, it sounds to be very strange that you have no problem with an alien language, a foreign language such as English, but you seem to have a problem with Hindi.
Okay. So the objective of learning any language for that matter is to communicate. if I'm comfortable in communicating and it helps me to improve, let's say, my social status or in terms of income, etc., if I can communicate in English, which is not imposed, which I've learnt it with my interest.
Improving your social status, isn't that elitism?
No.
That your social status is determined by the way you can speak English fluently?
Question is, not because I'm speaking English, I'm elitist. I'm learning English to progress in my life. In the process of progressing in my life, if I earn better, if my social status improves, that's an outcome, which every one of us will agree that is one of the objectives. So question is, why are these particular kind of policies, let's say national education policy, where again the covert idea is to impose Hindi on the southern states?
Is
in
it
India.
mentioned in the new national education policy that one of the language has to be Hindi?
No,
No,
it's not mentioned. But let's be practical here. If
That's
the
why we said
central
covert.
government-
It appears to be a covert attempt.
when the central government imposes national education policy where there have to be 3 languages which have to be learned.
Why do you call it imposition? Isn't education under concurrent list?
That's what I'm coming to now. When you have this kind of a policy where I have to teach one more additional language, I don't have resources for any other language. The only one that is left out is Hindi, where resources are available, where books are available, etc. It looks like an indirect imposition. I'm not
So
saying
what you're saying is that books, literature are available in Hindi more than the other
any
languages?
any other languages.
Any other language, which includes the southern languages?
That anyways has to be taught, right? 2 languages.
Which means that's the failure of the state governments from the south of India, that they have been unable to promote their own language, script, culture,
Yes.
despite calling Sangam literature as the oldest literature in the world.
So when you basically say it is a failure of the state, generally the states in southern part of India will focus on their regional languages. For example, Karnataka. The government of Karnataka will focus on Kannada and any other regional language which is present in Karnataka.
So at least in Karnataka, there should be good periodicals, journals available in Kannada language.
Yes, these are available. We are not saying that these are not there. I'm saying that in addition to these 2
But
languages.
that's what your opposition to Hindi is, that after English, the best kind of literature, journals, periodicals are available in Hindi. So we will be forced
I'm not
to
saying
read.
best. I'm saying the other alternative. What is the viable alternative available to me apart from the 2 languages? It's Hindi. So because the center knows that there is no other option for me, because I'll have to teach the 3rd language, I will have to go with the Hindi language then.
Why don't you opt for Tamil as the 3rd language? Or is there Kannada, Tamil conflict?
In that particular case, why not teach a 3rd language from the same state? Why not something else from the same state which will add to my, let's say, cultural diversity? Why should I basically learn Hindi? That is my question. Just Hindi, problem. I'm saying any other language, it's not a problem.
And also
Any
dodge
other
that
language
question.
is not a problem, but Hindi is a problem.
Only Hindi. I'm saying only Hindi is a problem.
No, what you're saying is we should be allowed to teach any other language or read any other language but
only Hindi. Only
Sham sir
Hindi.
actually has a valid point.
Which I'm
Recently, Stalin gave out a list of
Yeah.
more than 20 languages in northern parts of India which have been consumed by Hindi, by the spread of Hindi.
Yeah.
That is what we fear. The smaller languages will die out eventually if Hindi is pushed.
I would argue otherwise. When we talk about the inclusion of languages, let's suppose in the 8th schedule of the Constitution, you see Maithili, Bodo.
But
Are
sir,
these-
how many
have
people?
these been
How many
consumed by
people?
Hindi?
No,
Yes.
let's
Sir,
first
but
look at
he
the-
dodged that.
let's first look at the argument of Mukesh sir. Yes, please continue.
Yes. So when we are talking about a greater identification given to these languages, there have been greater number of awards given to, let's suppose, the literary geniuses who are working in these areas. There is a greater publication, the number of publications which are coming out, for example, in Maithili. I will take the example of Maithili. That is increasing. Now, on the other hand, while I'm all for multilinguality, multilinguality should be the essence of a country which is so very diverse. We should know various different languages. I still have not been able to see an effort from any of the other states in order to help people learn the language. Either you make an extraordinary effort to learn the local language, or you are on your own.
Sir,
or
has
you are in
Bihar
effort.
government done anything
Let
to
me
promote
come in
Kannada?
here. Mukesh sir, I have few questions for you. Is it also not true that the central government is deliberately not funding enough for the promotion of the beautiful classical southern languages? Not enough teachers are recruited, funding is provided to them, training is provided to them.
There,
Which means then the central government is deliberately giving few choices to the citizens from the south of India that it is either Hindi or nothing else, while Hindi is being promoted unabashedly.
So, while where your argument or your question is about,
And the second question before I forget, since you are speaking eloquently in favor of multilingualism, and you want that as citizens we should speak multiple languages because we are diverse. You have been in Karnataka for more than 15 years now.
That is what-
and
that is
yet
what
you are
my-
unable to speak in Kannada.
No, I have
which
started.
means you have reluctance
No,
to
no, it is not reluctance.
understand southern Indian languages.
Okay, I hope the question is done. Now, understand this, that there has been an effort that I have been putting in for some time, and you have also been living in Karnataka for more than, I think, a decade now. I am sure you have not picked up the local language, despite facing a lot of issues, right, on a day-to-day basis.
Including
That
today.
is what including today. That is what my point has been. That when we talk about multilinguality and promotion of, let's suppose, a language like Tamil, a language which is so very rich, so very diverse, I don't find those easy to learn kind of mechanisms with the help of books, which will help a newbie learn that language, right? We are left to the mercy of the movies to be able to understand that language.
Sir,
I don't find any, and I have been living in this state for a long period of time. I have lived in coastal Karnataka, I have lived in the region of Bangalore, and I will again say this, that learning the local language, unless and until you make an extraordinary push from your side.
Sir, in that case, if
I
I
strongly
can learn
disagree with
Hindi,
this.
if I
Sir.
can learn Hindi by watching movies,
Movies, yes.
what's the problem?
What's the
in
problem
you learning in
learning
Kannada?
South
That
Indian
is
language?
where, see, please understand, you might be very bright. I am not that bright.
That's not
time to
This is
learn a
where-
language.
Sir, this is where there are two issues here. What you are doing is you are mixing political rhetoric with NEP. There's a feeling. We understand that. And there may be a
Not
certain-
just a feeling. Why are funds being withheld under Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan?
Because they are not ready to agree to NEP. NEP is not talking about Hindi at all.
That's what, there is a covert imposition.
No,
Sir, this
NEP
covert
has
technically
NEP
legally
based
they might be
on
right.
the anywhere.
Allocation of funds to any scheme should be independent of whether you agree or disagree with the
Sir,
center or not.
education,
Both
if it
are
is
not.
not-
Mukesh sir, do you, and Abhishek sir, both of you, can you for a moment discount the statements coming from the leaders from the union government where they openly say that Hindi should be a national language, Hindi should be a link language, where the political class is actively pushing Hindi as one language which can bind the country together, and then say that no, their policies are innocent, naive, that they will not be pushing for Hindi as the language, as the one common language.
Sir, but that is politics. They are appeasing their political constituency. The southern, this is where the political rhetoric of the south, they are also appeasing their political constituency. This is where it's about politics of appeasement, sir. If the central government has a certain politics to it, it is not actually just till the point of Hindi. There's other rhetoric also which is attached to it, which I may not disagree with regards to that. But the point is, they are doing politics. This is also politics. The cohort attempt, this conspiracy concept, these are feelings which are developing. That is also a failure of the central government not to reach out. That I totally agree with. We both will agree that that is a failure on the part. But political rhetoric should not be taken so seriously that you tend to then see every central scheme
Because
as an imposition.
political rhetoric has social consequences.
But your political rhetoric also has social
That's
consequences.
a reaction. That's
Sir,
a counter
what you are
reaction.
doing right now is basically creating a new regionalism.
Sir, let's say today
He dodged a question. He dodged a question when he said that will you teach Tamil in Karnataka? And he just said, sir, we should teach
Sir,
one more language of Karnataka.
Let me tell you something.
What is the
very
point of that?
purpose of three-language formula was to promote multilinguality.
Yes.
There is no other region other than south of India which is more multilingual. Can you say the same about northern parts
Sir,
of
but
India?
absolutely, yes.
No.
Absolutely,
No. What
yes.
happened to the other smaller languages which Hindi has already consumed up?
You are talking about the list that the chief
But
minister has
nobody
given.
said nothing, sir.
Have you gone on the ground and looked at how many people are still speaking in those languages?
Similarly-
you still find the
similarly-
absolute number to be larger as compared to, let's suppose, a language like Tulu.
Similarly, are
you
you
will not
aware?
find many speakers of Tulu.
Tulu is always restricted to a smaller belt. It was never a major language. It has always been a minor language. It has remained a minor language.
So you're restricting its spread.
Yes.
no,
That is the whole point.
Not really.
Sir, But then if
Tulu has been restricted to the coastal part of Karnataka.
Has been restricted or it is organic?
It is organically. It's not that it's been done by force.
So
So
if
then
that
Andhra
is
Pradesh
there, it is
argument-
organic because Kannada is considered to be a uniform monolith for the entire region of Karnataka. Think about
Not
it.
exactly.
Not many of
No.
the, when we talk about, let's suppose, a dialect and a language, both are different. When we say Awadhi, when we say Maghi, when we say Bhojpuri, these are not languages. These are
yes, dialects.
So dialects, they tend to get subsumed over a period of time. It has happened.
Sir,
but
That
that is
is
what enriches Hindi also.
That is where every language in the world, I think we made it a point in the past discussions as well, that every language has been enriched as and when more and more dialects have been included in that.
Sir, what is the objective that you are trying to achieve? Let's imagine a situation where Hindi becomes the sole language of.
It should not be the sole language.
It should not.
never be the sole
Sir,
language.
Okay.
this is the
Hindi
land
should
of
never
Mudiyar.
be the sole language.
Okay.
That is where I am saying that there has to be, see, what sir has asked as a question.
Hindi should not be a sole language.
No.
It should be option or compulsory.
No, it should never be compulsory.
Okay, that's what we are saying. It
No.
looks like it is. It looks
No.
like.
Sir.
Understand my statement, sir. It looks like it is being made compulsory.
Compulsory.
That
Yeah,
is the
that
point
is
we are
what my
trying to
point
make.
is, that
when
the
you simply
fear
say
seems to be
you don't agree with this
unsubstantiated.
policy, I will not give you funds in another scheme.
Okay.
Is it not being pushed on us?
No.
Sir, I'll just add one point. This is the land of Mudiyattu and Kudiyattam, where you have money prevalent, which is Sanskrit plus Malayalam. This politics, when there can be a cultural form, decades old, which can bring Sanskrit and Malayalam together, and that has been nurtured by communities here, that was therein wherein the electoral politics is basically poisoning the mind. It is not that no form in South India culturally does not have multilinguality.
Oh,
inside
in
it.
that particular case, if your argument is electoral politics is poisoning the mind, don't raise the issue of imposing or let's say talking about Hindi. Let's not talk about Hindi. Then there is no question of politics.
question of
being
politics.
raised.
No, never
around.
Bihar said, Jharkhand said, never East, West said. For example, what you're saying that Hindi subsumes languages. There was no movement in Bihar saying that you're imposing Hindi on us. It was a beautiful process of cultural amalgamation.
Is Hindi the
Was it
mother tongue
accepted?
of
Was
Bihar?
it
No,
accepted?
it isn't. No,
Was
it
it
isn't.
accepted?
Willingly
Sir, was it accepted?
In
But
Punjab.
It
It
is
is
not
not
a
a process.
In that case,
sir.
we are not
It's a-
accepting it. Why
That
is
is
that?
organic
That is
process,
what my point
sir.
is, that the fear seems to be unsubstantiated. I will just make one subtle other point. You say that why do you suspect that it is being imposed is because if you don't follow this, I won't give you funds. That's it. Now, if let's suppose there is an educational policy from the central government. Central government has come up with an education policy. The education policy, one of the key points of education policy is what? Promoting teaching in mother tongue, vernacular language.
Yes.
That is what this education policy, just a moment, sir. That is what this education policy is known for. Now, when we talk about a scheme, you are referring to Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan or PM Shri. Now, when you talk about these political schemes, now it is being, some part of it will be funded by the central government. Wouldn't the central government want a kind of a standardization in terms of what is being delivered? So thereby, wouldn't it be the prerogative, if you are a bureaucrat in the central government, wouldn't it be your prerogative to have that standardization? Let's suppose that if vernacular
Sir, don't
is being
forget,
taught-
education is on the concurrent list.
if the
States
state
need
objective
to have
is
the
to
flexibility
promote-
to decide
Yes,
which language
yes,
is taught at the
absolutely.
school level.
Absolutely.
Sir, if
It
the
is
objective
there.
is to
So that
promote-
can't be the prerogative of the center.
No,
Sir, but
so when
national
you talk about a central scheme, I'm not talking about the state scheme. He's
Central
saying
scheme as
that
well.
central scheme like a Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan or PM Shri, now that is where the center, what is it that the center should do? Should center turn a blind eye and keep on giving the funds?
Setting standards is different.
Think about
And using it as a blackmail tactic
No,
is different.
think about it from the other point of view. Let's suppose a state, not a South Indian state. Let's suppose any other state. Because South Indian states are slightly efficient in terms of administration. Center doesn't have any kind of accountability which is maintained with regards to how the funds are utilized, where the funds are utilized. Isn't that pouring funds into a kind of a black hole? So,
Sir,
as
for
someone,
that, for that
who is
there are multiple tools.
There are many
I'll
checks
give
and
you
balances.
multiple. For example, SNA is there. SNA, single nodal agency account is there.
Right.
Right. On
the
time
single nodal
funds-
account, that
on-time
agency
fund
will
transfer.
also have the
on
case.
fund transfer is there. There are multiple
No,
tools.
no,
let's
please
not kid
please
ourselves.
elaborate on that
Let's say,
how
for
the
example-
center will account for the fact that
Yeah.
the funds are properly utilized in terms of the standardized maintenance of
So does
tradition.
it, okay, sir, you are saying that there is no imposition of Hindi, not even subtle imposition of the Hindi.
No, I'm saying that, see.
So are you saying there is subtle imposition of Hindi?
No, I'm saying that there is political rhetoric on both sides of the aisle. It is not something restricted
Then I'll
only to
basically
the
say
southern
that
states or to the northern states.
rhetoric started from the center.
Okay.
If you act, we will react.
This is the
Don't
point we
act,
made in the
no,
last
let's do one
video
thing.
as well.
Let's do one thing.
Okay, so let me come to this
Can
table
I ask this question?
and I will answer your question specifically. Why I did not learn Kannada all these years? Because to be honest, I don't feel the need. I like this language. I love all the languages. They sound beautiful, amazing, musical. But I don't have the need. Plus, I don't have the time to read this language. That does not mean I hate this language. And I'm reluctant to read, understand this language. But what I can sense from you, Shyam sir, is that you are reluctant to accept Hindi. You seem to have a problem only with Hindi and not any other language.
I don't think so.
Sir,
I don't think so.
Basically,
I'll tell you, sir. I have a point. I have a
That's
point.
my allegation. That's my allegation.
One second,
That's my point. But yes, it does appear that your stand is valid when you seem to believe that the central government or the union government, as you would like to call it, is blatantly promoting Hindi at the expense of other languages. But my counter is it also not the duty on the center to promote the spread of Hindi language? That's under Article 351 of the Constitution. It shall be the duty of the union to promote Hindi so that Hindi becomes a means of composite culture in India. So if the central government is promoting Hindi, they're not doing something unconstitutional.
Just because it is not unconstitutional, does it mean it is the right thing to do? And also, just to counter the point that you never had the need to learn Kannada, don't you think the aspect that Kannadigas were willing to talk to you in Hindi or English had a big role to play in that? Because you were at ease, where people, the locals were putting in that effort
That
to
is
communicate
cosmopolitan
with you.
culture, sir.
Sir, that's exactly which you don't find in other parts of the country.
In fact, I did not even need to communicate in Hindi. I would communicate in English.
Sir, what we are saying is
That
simple.
willingness to accept a different language is what you find in southern India, which generally is not seen in other
That
parts.
is where the
I-
problem is. That is where the entire argument begins
Yes,
from.
sir,
I will ask you a
Is there
simple
an
question.
acceptance of a language like Hindi in southern India? That is where what the entire debate has been revolving
Sir,
around.
two very important
But
points.
if, Mukesh sir, do you also not understand this, that there is a history to it?
Yes, there is.
Hindi was being forced as the national language on the unwilling population of the South India. So their apprehension is not coming out from thin air. They have been subjected to it, and they feel it feels natural for them to resist any further imposition of Hindi
Sir, I have one more
because
point.
they have been the victims of that in the past.
I will partly
And plus to that, on Shyam sir, if this union government was blatantly against the South Indian languages, then you tell me the first 6 languages which were declared as the classical
languages,
language, none of them were from the North India.
Yeah.
So whether it is Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Odia, and then the Sanskrit as well. So none of these languages were from north of India.
Okay, sir, I'll just answer to some of the right points you raised. I'm not against Hindi language. I've learned Hindi. Right? I like to speak in Hindi. I watch Hindi movies.
But you
etc.
want it voluntary, not
so it
forced.
has to be voluntary. It should not be forced on the people. Point number 1. Point number 2. Earlier we were discussing about it's a delimitation. Earlier there was an attempt to make Hindi as a national language. Now tell me, if the delimitation happens and northern states get the majority of the seats in the Lok Sabha, what is the guarantee that Hindi will not be declared as a language and imposed on us? So it's not just individual issues that we have. It is basically a summation of all of these particular
So this
problems.
is where assurances have to come from the union government.
That's what I'm
that
saying.
It is not
Yes.
about imposition.
You
I
don't.
would agree with the entire, I think, the argument that is going to and fro. I think all of us are converging on the same point, that linguistic idea is something which is very important for our country. It has to be voluntary, not only in one part of the country, but in all parts of the country. That is where I would urge that the southern states also should try to make it more easier for the people to learn the language.
Sir, no, I have a strong counter.
Sir, before that,
Now let's say you go to Germany to study.
Right.
will Germany help you
Germany
to
is
learn
a
the
different
language?
nation, sir. Different
Eventually,
nation. For
linguistic
example-
linguistic identity is still the same. Wherever you go, the outsider is expected to learn the local
it's the
language.
same country.
The
Sir, if I
effort
come
has to
to
come in
make-
from.
why do
Sir,
you make a
it is a
person
lame
outsider?
excuse. It's a lame
Sir,
excuse which is
I am
being
an
given.
outsider.
If I come to
I'll
UP
ask a
and
very
talk
simple
in
question.
Kannada, will you accept it?
Sir,
Will any shopkeeper
Maybe
accept
it's not
it?
about. See,
Have you
I am neither
understood the
Hindi
language?
speaking person nor the South Indian language speaking
I'll
person.
ask you a very simple
But the
question.
point is, if a Kannadiga or a Tamilian goes to UP, for example, the person living in UP would not understand these South Indian languages because you have never been exposed to
That
it.
is what my point
But
is.
there are
Correct.
also Tamilians
Correct.
in Varanasi who speak Hindi.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
My
Sir,
point
that's
is there
that
has
is
to be
exactly the
great
point.
effort
That's
made
what we are
from
saying.
all sides of the table to
Not
make
really.
the, to
Not
make
really.
the no.
That's not.
Sir,
this
this
is
is where-
so that
in Bangalore,
does not
sir,
need to be
no.
done.
In Bangalore,
These languages
in-
automatically will be learnt across the
in
country.
Just
Bangalore-
to cut the rhetoric once, I'll ask you a very simple question. I accept all of your understanding and I accept your argument. Now, Hindi is being argued as one language being pushed onto South India. Now, the prerogative of creating a national language has been pushed to the southern states. Tell me that language, which will now be the.
We don't need a national language.
Sir, why? What
Why
is
do
the
we want a
objective
national
you are trying
language?
Wow,
to
this
achieve?
is
Let's
a
say-
circular argument.
No,
Sir,
it's not.
no, their point is
Why do you
also
need
clear.
a
There is
national
no need for a
language?
national
Why do you
language.
need a language?
In fact, there is a better solution that I can provide the government on this platform. There is an ordinary law called Official Languages Act,
Language
which
Act,
mandates
yeah.
that Hindi and English should be the official language and there is no time limit.
Yeah.
I would rather advocate for a constitutional amendment. Freeze it forever. The official
no such
language of the
friction should
union
happen.
shall be Hindi and English.
Yeah.
There should be no
That's what we are
imposition.
saying, sir. If there is no action from the center, there is no point of reacting. Then it becomes useless from our side to simply say there is a
So
Hindi
there is
imposition.
political rhetoric on
Yes.
both sides.
Both sides.
Both from the Tamil Nadu chief minister
there is
as
no
well as
action,
the
there
union
will be no
government.
reaction.
Okay, so we have come to a conclusion on issue number 2 as well. Now let's bring a very important and sensitive issue, which is the devolution of funds. Hello learners. Unacademy IAS English team is proud to launch a new batch for CSE 2026, which starts on the 5th of March. And Unacademy is offering a 15-month plus subscription for 22,999, the lowest subscription fee of all time. Visit our website, check various subscription plans, plus Iconic Pro, and you might see a different subscription amount on display. Use this code IAS English to unlock the lowest subscription amount. Join us and prepare with India's most credible IAS preparation team, and together, let's crack it. Okay, so we have come to a conclusion on issue number 2 as well. Now let's bring a very important and sensitive issue, which is the devolution of funds from the divisible pool of taxes. For example, income tax that you and me pay, or the corporate tax paid by the corporate companies. Entire money gets deposited in the Consolidated Fund of India. And this tax is imposed by the center, this tax is collected by the center, but it is to be distributed with the states. And that formula of distribution has to be decided by the Finance Commission. And by the way, Finance Commission does not have the representation from any state. It is not a federal body. Its terms of reference and conditions are set by the President of India under Article 280 of the Constitution, which means the ruling political party at the center would have the power to determine the terms of reference and what is the criteria to be followed for the devolution of tax funds. We have had instances, for example, the 14th Finance Commission, which used the 1971 population formula.
Yes, 1971 and 2011.
And
population.
2011, and now the 15th Finance Commission has been using the
Only
2011 population as the criteria, which means then more money will be pumped into North India as compared to the South India, because obviously there is population disparity. And that you see another attack on the economic front by the union government against the southern states, because you're saying that southern states are contributing more to these taxes than the northern counterparts.
Yes. So the argument is, earlier we used to use only 1971 population, the census population, and after that from the 15th Finance Commission we have shifted to only 2011 census population. Now with, let's say, passage of one more decade, if the population census is conducted, there will be much more population divide between the southern states as well as northern states. Our concern is, You take a state such as UP, Bihar, no doubt highly populated states, no doubt assistance has to be provided, but our concern is not at the cost of the southern Indian states. There are different ways to provide assistance to, let's say, a mostly populated state in India, but not at the cost of, let's say, reducing our devolution. So concern is simple. Don't take only the population criteria of or population census of 2011 or let's say 2026 population. Let's go back to 1971 devolution formula, where the population of 1971, which was much more evenly compared to today, was distributed across India. If we shift to, let's say, the latest census data, guaranteed more and more devolution will go to the mostly populated states and very less devolution to, let's say, the southern Indian states.
Sir, let me ask you a question. Do we need a census exercise?
Yes, sir.
For what reason?
We need to identify which part of India has what kind of population density or the distribution of population so that the policies can be formulated and implemented accordingly.
Is it also about the data?
Yes.
In a sense, what is your mother tongue? What is your total fertility rate? What is your educational standard? Whether you belong to SC or ST, whether you belong to minorities, that data is important.
Yes,
because
collection
that
of data
data
will be required for any policy for that matter.
For any policy. And for that, do we need latest data or the old data?
We need the latest data.
Okay.
I would be favoring of, right, let's say collecting the latest data and making a policy based on the latest data.
Latest data. Why? Because we will have the exact understanding of what is the requirement.
Yes.
And for things that benefit you, you want the old data to be used, which is 1971. Whereas your argument is that always for policy making, we should use the latest data available.
Okay, so
is that hypocrisy or something that is...
I will tell you why there is a hypocrisy here. If the center can basically guarantee us that right or proportionate funds would be devolved to us, we would be in favor of the latest data. What do we mean by, let's say, the right proportion of funds? When you look at the population, the southern states have been much more successful in controlling the population growth. And in terms of contribution of, let's say, taxes, economic activity, etc., partly because of the government policies or, let's say, the location of industries or the central government policies, we have been able to contribute more. But when you take, let's say, population of 2011 only, allocate the weightage only for 2011, very well knowing that population in northern part of India is much more concentrated compared to southern part of India.
Does Finance Commission use only the population data to
No.
devolve funds?
No.
But you said only.
I'm saying only 2011 population, not with 1971. For example, the 14th Finance Commission took the 71 as well as 2011. 15th Finance Commission took only 2011, and that is because of the central government terms of references. So our argument is, if you can devolve the, let's say, the tax contributions in a much better way, using other parameters, or let's say incentivize us for having controlled the population in a better way, so then there will be no problem in terms of devolution of taxes.
But there is nothing. Demographic performance has been added as a criteria
Exactly.
under
The
Finance
weightage.
Commission.
What is the weight?
It's a 15%. You are
tell
basically
you.
obsessing over 15%.
Okay,
and
1971 plus 2011, the weightage was 27.5% in 14 Finance Commission. Now it has been brought down to 15%. Your argument is 15, but 15 for only 2011 population. There comes the problem. If you look at how much of the funds will go to, let's say, the most populated states, if you take the total amount of devolution to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, it is more than all the 5 southern states put together. Only 2 states.
So what is the highest weightage under Finance Commission?
It is for income distance.
So now you're answering the question automatically.
What? Yeah.
Which is that income distance means regional inequality. So therefore, 15% you are saying that you guarantee us that devolution is going to be not lower. But the highest weightage is given to income distance. Finance Commission is not just a tool of income devolution, horizontal or vertical. It is also a tool of addressing regional disparity in India itself. So basically what you are doing is what you did in the first part of the argument. In the second and the third, constitutional mandate should be diluted for the, you can say, convenience of the southern states, and thereafter when it suits us, then constitution.
Sir, in this argument, only one point is correct from your side, which is our point, stand on the issue that we are discussing now is related to the first topic that we discussed. See, please understand, out of each rupee that we are contributing from South Indian states,
Sir, you are an
Are we
Indian,
in a
sir. You
brand?
are an
Hear
Indian.
him out. Hear him out.
This argument, others. He's an Indian. We are all Indians.
we are all Indians. Nobody is denying
we
that.
contribute.
No,
We
no,
go
in
forward.
a family also, if you have siblings, you will put out your performance, your contribution to the family. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are treating yourself separate from the family.
We are
Let's hear
Indians.
him out.
I started out my argument by saying I'm an Indian from South of India. We are Indians. I agree to that. Yes, nation building is a priority. Other states should receive equal support as well. I agree. But for each rupee that we are contributing, we are barely getting back 15 paise on an average. So aren't you disincentivizing the southern states for performing better?
So for every rupee
How?
that we are contributing,
I mean, I'm unable to grapple
sir,
this.
let's say there is a student who doesn't study. or
No,
study
he
very
understood your
We
point.
understand your point, but how?
What is your argument?
But my argument, on one hand, he's saying that we should remove that regional imbalance, all the states should receive equal support. But at the same time, because we are earning more, we should get more.
It should be fair. It's not fair. The
Sir, we are
formula
not
which
saying
is
what
being
is
decided
fair.
not
What
What
is fair?
is fair? Who
What is
decides
fair?
fair?
That's what the Delimitation Commission has to work out a formula
This is
which
Finance
addresses
Commission.
these
We are-
issues.
we are talking
Sir,
about
the Finance Commission.
let's say-
Finance
So,
Commission.
but then you are saying a constitutional body itself, therefore, does not have parity, or you can see this is where, sir, you are now again pushing that rhetoric onto the point that there is a conspiracy by the Finance Commission to disincentivize.
Sir, who
southern
decides
states.
the terms of references? Who decides?
The Finance Commission under the mandate of the
No,
President.
no,
is
President
President
of
of
India.
Decide
Yeah.
the terms of
So you are saying
reference.
the President is biased.
The President,
Just a
where does the
second.
President
Just
get
a
it?
second.
Council of Ministers?
The government
Cabinet,
of India
ruling
decides
party.
the terms of reference.
Sir,
Okay.
because just the ruling party is A, B, C, D party, you are basically taking that rhetoric of that party and then pushing it to
It's
all
not rhetoric,
institutions.
sir.
In
It's
the
not
ruling party
rhetoric.
at the center, which regions have more dominant control? The North Indian
Sir,
states
it's a
with more
rhetorical
population?
point. As he said,
It's not.
Finance
It's not, sir.
Commission
When the
has
funds are
fees
transferred,
Let's not cut each other. Let's have a civil debate. What is your argument?
So the
You're
argument-
saying that this is pure rhetoric, pure
Yes.
politics.
Yes, so Finance Commission has a mandate.
But you were wrong. Finance Commission is established, set up by the President under Article 280, but on the advice of the government. Reference are set by the government. They have a problem with the Union Government bulldozing its own narrative.
But sir,
If I can have
And you
a
can't
couple
say,
of words here.
and let me interact with Abhishek sir first, and you can't say that since Finance Commission is a constitutional body, it will be independent in its functioning. Because look at other institutions. Is Election Commission of India independent in its functioning?
sir, again, what I
Yes or no?
No.
Are they, which proves their point. Now let's bring in Mukesh sir to the debate. You are nodding your head in disagreement.
Because sir, you are basically you are taking the argument.
You
in a
have
certain-
been let down by your partner in crime.
Sir, the point is you are taking it
I
in a
think my
certain
partner has
direction.
been pressured into an answer that
which
he
is
did
the-
not agree to.
that is the whole
but
point,
then,
Okay.
that is a part of that.
Let's hear
Yeah.
you out.
My only a couple of words that I will say here is the case that, see, there has to be a kind of incentive given to, let's suppose, a demographic well-functioning of a state, the social development that the state has done. But at the same time, we cannot turn a blind eye to the requirement that there are certain states which are facing a lot of different and difficult issues that they have to tackle with.
Correct.
A country like India can never develop just because the West and the South have developed, unless and until the East and the North catches up.
Nobody is denying that. Absolutely.
That is where my point is. That we have to incentivize the well-performing states, and that is a statement which has been made on the floor of the House by the government. Keep aside the political rhetoric which is made on the sidelines here and there. But a statement which is made by a representative of the government on the floor of the House, that we will reward the states who have been doing well, who have had a progress in social sector. So let's not put the cart before the horse. Let the recommendations of the Finance Commission
Sir, I
come
have
in.
Let him finish.
Let the recommendations of the Finance Commission come in. That will be laid before the Parliament. And let the debate start after. What is happening right now is a kind of a clarion call issued already. That is what I'm calling as an absolute galvanization of your electorate. That beware, a wolf is coming. You don't know whether it is a wolf or a sheep, or maybe it is just rainfall. So let that entire thing unravel. Let us look at that.
Give
But
a chance.
yes, in
By then-
principle, the progress has to be rewarded, but population cannot be ignored.
So please understand the concern. By then the wolf would have eaten the sheep.
Okay, let me come in here. You are saying that we should trust at least the statement given by a political leader on the floor of the parliament.
That is minimum we can do. We can be betrayed by that. We can
is
see
politics.
that is what the aspect of expectation from the government can be. You expect the good. Every time good might not happen, but you still expect the good. And
So
before
that
the
is your argument against their grievances, that let's trust the statement of a minister made on the floor of the
And
house.
wait and watch.
And we know that they lie as well for
Right.
their political constituencies.
No. My argument against what they have said.
So are you saying political class, they do not lie on the floor of the parliament?
Not as blatantly as outside.
Should I give you instances?
You're now
Yeah,
being
you
pressured.
can give me 4 or 5 instances out there, but there can be countless number of instances where they have been right.
No,
So
but-
it is a kind of a sampling error which cannot be presented as proof.
No, but the point is when you're saying let's wait for the terms and reference of the 16th Finance Commission, you already have the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission,
we have.
where the formula was skewed in favor of the northern Indian states against the southern Indian states by using 2011 as one criteria for the devolution of funds.
You tell me.
How should, in your view, be the southern states rewarded, and why were they not rewarded by the 15th Finance Commission?
Right. So, first argument regarding how they should be rewarded. If you ask my opinion, they should be rewarded for, let's suppose, a kind of a reduction in total fertility rate that they have achieved. Many of the South Indian states have done tremendous progress in that. When it comes to literacy rates, there the progress has been made. So these are the demographic factors. When we say demography, does not only mean the count of population. These demographic factors are on which the South Indian states, they deserve to be rewarded. But at the same time, when you say that the devolution of funds was absolutely skewed in the previous case, so at that point of time, are we ignoring the populational requirement?
Sir, I have 2 points here, just 2 points. One, I have a problem with the word reward here itself. We are not asking for any kind of a reward. We are simply saying,
What is ours?
if you have the
fair
formula
share,
correctly,
fair share.
What
if
is
you
ours?
have the formula
Fair share.
correctly, if there is a proportional grant of devolution to us, we don't have any problem.
For
That is
example?
the demand. One. Second one is, you are asking us to wait and watch. If I wait,
Yeah.
Finance Commission will submit the report. Government will basically say, this is the Commission
Recommendations will
I
be
will simply
implemented.
accept it.
Then there is no
what should
going
I do?
back.
There is an example of, let's say, 14th FC, 15th FC, where more and more funds, you might simply say income distance has the highest weightage.
Yeah.
Then find out which of the states have got the highest devolution.
And sir, you're saying
Find
we
out.
should take the
You will realize
statements.
it is
So
those
then what
states.
is the solution from an economist standpoint?
No, my point,
Sir,
sir, before
I have one point.
Yes,
one
please,
point.
sir.
You were saying we should take the statements of our leaders with blind faith.
No, not blind faith.
never, sir.
I am not saying.
Never.
I am saying. I am
will
saying we should not react preemptively. That is all I am saying.
Without a
because-
preemptive reaction, those who are in a weaker position politically cannot protect their interests.
If I can't raise my voice today and
Today,
convey it to the Finance
tomorrow the
Commission
option
that
will
these
come.
are my concerns,
Yes.
then tomorrow Finance Commission might simply say, we did not realize that there was these kind of
But
concerns.
you tell me, sir. You talk about fair share. What is the fair share? Let's suppose all the states should get 25% of what they have contributed.
The question is
that
not
may
about
not
the
be-
fair
it-
share.
it can't
Sir,
be equally-
2
what is
points.
fair share?
One, when you decide the parameters, have correct weightage or appropriate weightage.
Again,
One,
the
just a
abstract
second, just a second. Second one, there are different ways to provide, let's say, funding to the states which has social issues. Why not use other programs,
Like-
other welfare schemes?
like?
There are hundreds of schemes. Manrega.
Acha.
Correct.
So Manrega,
Hundreds
again,
of
won't
schemes.
there be a
Hundreds
kind
of
of a biasness from the central government if the schemes are directed towards
So
certain
you're
states?
basically saying,
It's
let's
already
do
there.
it this way, not
No,
this way.
see, there is no perfect solution that we can actually prescribe to the Finance Commission. We are in no position to do that. But there are certain states, let's suppose, who make rupees 100, generate rupees 100, and they give 100 rupees contribution to the central government. They are giving 15 rupees from the central government. A state, let's suppose, which is able to generate only 7 rupees. Should we penalize them that, no, you have given me only 7 rupees, I will give you 1 rupee. So won't that increase the kind of differential that we have, the kind of regional imbalance that you have? You know what regional imbalance does? It leads to otherization. It leads to migrant labor crisis, where people from certain parts, they are forced to leave their land. They work as migrant laborers. That gulf in the society is never good.
And Shyam sir, would it be better if population will be one criteria for devolution of funds, because it should be?
It should be.
But the southern states, the good performing states, should be provided with a bonus. And that bonus should be based on the kind of taxes that they have collected, should be based on various other factors, for example, the implementation of various programs. And at the same time, this will act as an incentive for the northern Indian states also to chase this bonus.
Absolutely.
And then shouldn't we also be starting a debate on the freebie culture? Because even if you are getting more funds from the Finance Commission, you will use it for a free bus ride. You will use it to waive off the loans. You will use it for those freebies which have no material benefit for the citizens. And shouldn't that money be used to build capital infrastructure?
Yeah. So, I absolutely agree with you, sir. Point number one, should the population be a criteria in the devolution formula? Yes, use it as a criteria. But ensure that every state will have, let's say, certain parameter to be happy with. It should not happen that more and more funds will go to one part of India and other states will start getting starved of the funds. That is the grievance that we have. It's not that population is a parameter. It's just that the population parameter is used to skew more and more funds to the northern part of India
But
and less
don't
to
you
the southern
think the
part of
southern Indian states, they are also self-sufficient in their revenue generating capacity as compared to a northeastern state, for example?
Sir,
Should we leave them at their mercy and not help?
in that case, now the demand will be
Because let's also understand these are hilly, difficult terrain areas. There can't be industrialization of the kind that we see in the southern Indian states. So should we penalize them for that?
basically the argument that more and more funds should go to hilly states. If you look at the devolution doesn't even go to hilly states. That's the grievance. It's not that only the
So
southern
again,
states.
your problem is with the Hindi-speaking states of UP, Bihar.
Sir,
Not exactly.
I'll tell you the problem. It's not.
Why are you speaking for him?
It's only certain part of India is getting.
We are going
more
round and
funds.
round and round.
Same argument.
Sir, this will keep on
How is
happening.
it mathematical possible?
So, let's say you talk about hilly states. Let's have a parameter which will provide more funds to hilly states. Let's do that. We are not against it. We are simply saying have parameters which will be
Same for the-
satisfactory to all the states, not to only few of the states.
Same for the backward states as well.
Yeah.
There should be additional support given, but not at the entire cost of the
And do you
welfare
also
performance
know
states.
that Bihar is also not satisfied with the Finance Commission recommendations?
They
Not
want a
UP
special
either.
status.
So there is no end to human expectations. You won't be satisfied at all.
And you basically argue that
There was a, you would know it better, the special category states. And the initially few states, Nagaland, Jammu and Kashmir, were given the special status. Then 11 more states in total got the special status. And then there was a demand from various other states. For example, Bihar asked for a special status.
Andhra Pradesh.
Odisha asked for the special status. Andhra Pradesh asked for the special status. If you look at Raghuram Rajan panel committee recommendation, they said the most developed state is Goa. And you know what? Goa was also asking for a special category state because there is no end to human expectations. So you can't have criteria which can satisfy everybody. But as intellectuals, all four of you, can you agree on one common criteria that the Finance Commission should follow, which appears to be rational and unbiased?
I would argue in favor of incentivization of the, let's say, to the states which have performed better in certain parameters, which shall be, let's say, both economic as well as social indicators. So that not just the states from southern part of India, even from the northern part of India will strive to achieve that. And in the process of achieving that, let's say, elimination of freebie culture. Why not? Let's have it as a parameter. Because multiple committees, even Supreme Court of India is arguing against the freebie culture.
No, they're not arguing, they're just hearing a case.
So basically, let's have this kind of a parameter where, let's say, improvement in the social as well as economic performance is incentivized. Right? So I would argue in case of these kind of parameters.
Chetan sir.
Population has to be a criteria along with the economic performance, economic and social performance. There should be adequate support to the backward states, the states which face more difficulties, geographical difficulties especially. At the same time, there should be a form of reward, a form of incentive for the well-performing states. This will become a positive indicator for other states, backward states as well, to start performing better.
I would say that we should integrate HDI performance, Human Development Index performance, and income criteria. Maybe income distance criteria is okay. Population criteria maybe 15% they can reduce. The whole point is that 15%, though mathematically not possible to dominate the whole devolution itself, but maybe 10%, and as he said, that we can agree that incentivizing their HDI performance should in turn lead to a bonus.
You won't ask for any reduction as is basis.
No, I would. I think that is the point that I started with, that population is still not the most major criteria. It cannot be the most major criteria. And at the same time, the progress that has been made by the southern states, it would be very wrong on the part of the Finance Commission not to reward that. That has to be rewarded. And that is the argument that I'm making all along the way, that while you reward that, at the same time, you cannot argue that why are you giving more funds to a particular region? Why not more funds to me? Because I'm giving you more, I'm earning more for you. We have to, at the end of the day, remember that all of us have the combined duty to ensure that the nation progresses. A nation can never progress if a state, let's suppose like Rajasthan or a state like Bengal, does not progress and the other states develop. So for the well-being and the development of nation, we need to partner each other. Maybe 50 years down the line.
And that's the element of cooperative federalism.
Yes, 50 years down the line, maybe we are staring at a different picture where, let's suppose, the Western states are completely presenting a developed state, and maybe God forbid that some of the southern states are not so well to do. So that is something that has to extend to all the states from each other. That is what is required going ahead in the future.
So that is about it. In this podcast, we have had important discussions, debate on some sensitive issues. My questions asked to both sides of the spectrum were completely unfiltered and unbiased. I am neither here nor there. So if you have been offended by my questions, I apologize. But the only purpose of this podcast is to have a freewheeling discussion, because the media would not show you both sides of the picture. They will polarize the society. They will pin one part of the society against the other. Our endeavor of this podcast is to give you a dispassionate view of what exactly are these issues, where do these issues stem from, and are these concerns genuine or mala fide. On one side, we had some genuine grievances from the representatives representing the southern Indian states, and on the other hand, we had some strong counter arguments by those who are in favor of all the issues that we have been discussing. What is your take on all these issues? Please let us know in the comment section. And do not forget to like this video if you liked and got benefited from this conversation. We will come up with more such interesting podcasts on important issues which unfortunately has been neglected by the media. They would only follow the rhetoric, and we are here to raise the noise, but with substance and facts and solid arguments. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Goodbye. Hello learners. Unacademy IAS English team is proud to launch a new batch for CSE 2026, which starts on the 5th of March. And Unacademy is offering a 15-month plus subscription for 22,999, the lowest subscription fee of all time. Visit our website, check various subscription plans, plus Iconic Pro, and you might see a different subscription amount on display. Use this code IAS English to unlock the lowest subscription amount. Join us and prepare with India's most credible IAS preparation team, and together, let's crack it.